Malena Crawford. She's an expert on transformation and success. She coaches, she writes, she teaches. A tragic childhood, homeless, and she um, was a victim of abuse. She had some epiphanies that we discuss. She turned herself around. She got certified in coaching and transformation. Her mission is to help people see their vision and transform. Uh, Truly inspiring woman. I really enjoyed talking to her. I know you're going to like this conversation with her. Thanks so much for listening. Hi, I'm Joey Pinz. People ask me, how did I lose 130 pounds? The quick answer is always discipline. I started my business, wasn't paying attention to my health, was eating too much, drinking too much sweets. My daughter was born. Next thing I know, I'm pre diabetic, I have hypertension. I knew something had to change. Discipline. I, like many of you, have faced many challenges in your career, in your family, in your life, in your faith. How did you attack them? How did you approach them? How did you solve them, hopefully? It all had to have some degree of discipline. I'm also asked, how did you found and start a tech business that lasted over 25 years? Discipline. I was committed to it, enjoyed technology, didn't enjoy some aspects of it, but knew it was necessary. Discipline. Our podcast mission: how do we use discipline to better ourselves and society? Join me, please, as I talk to interesting people and discuss how they use discipline in their family, in their passion, in their careers, and how it helped them. Our podcast vision: growth through learning from others. Joey Pin's Discipline Conversations. It'll be light and serious. Join us, please. Thank you for consideration. I guess just a little bit already. You've got such an inspiring story, and
Thank you.
yeah, inspiring and oh my goodness, motivating. How's that? So, how tough is it to be an African American woman, a strong African American woman now in the United States right now?
It'll always be a challenge, I think, but it's a wonderful challenge. I
Mm.
love being who I am. I love being African American and a woman. Um, I think it definitely builds character, and it definitely has makes you or makes me um uneffable with.
Mm. Mm.
You get such a strong sense of who you are out of, you just have to. And so I've gotten to a point where I just have so much pride in my heritage and my story that just really inspires me to forge ahead and be an inspiration, not just to more African American women and girls, but really to the world, and shine a light there.
Yeah, that's so true. And how different is it in other countries versus the United States? Is it more difficult? Is it easier? Is it harder? Is it less?
Being of African descent.
Yeah.
Well, this is the only country that I have lived in, but I would imagine if you were one of the ethnic minorities, like say you're in Europe, I would imagine being the statistical minority at all times is going to be a challenge. People for like the history of humanity have always gone against those who are the most different. Um, Out of really an egotistical need to control and dominate. So I would imagine that it would be quite difficult, uh, be a challenge, yeah, for anyone being the minority.
You mentioned
Hmm.
this one particular story where you were in South Africa and you were speaking,
Hmm.
and something quite extraordinary happened. Please tell.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, I absolutely love this story. So I was in George, South Africa, and I had a workshop on what these women wanted to create, a manifesting workshop. So this was a workshop filled with women from, I'm talking, There were tribal differences, there were racial differences. These women were separated by apartheid for many years, and they had not come together,
Mm.
period, you know? And so here they were in one room. And at first, they segregated themselves
Hmm.
according to who they came with. And I said, no, we're all going to pick a partner that you don't know, especially, a woman that you would never know outside of this room. So, white were sitting with black, Chosa were sitting with, their opposing tribe. And the question that I asked them was the first question was, what was their dream for themselves? So that was great. They started, warming up, getting really excited about their answers. And then I asked them what was their dream for their sister? What was their dream for the woman next to them that they had never interacted with in all these years? And the tears just came.
Mm.
Oh God, it was so beautiful. And they stood up at the end of the workshop and just expressed how much they hated being segregated from their sisters, how similar they were,
Mm.
but they were just separated from such a ridiculous law. By such a ridiculous law. But it was so powerful. We left, they vowed to do this again and again, to come together in the town of George and beyond. It was just such a fascinating lesson for me in human nature. Like, we are so much more alike than we are different,
Mm.
so much more. And we just really want to connect. We really want to be one. I think this is like something from our souls that we know that we're one and we want to come together as one. So yeah, it actually happened in that room.
It's incredible. I can't imagine what the atmosphere was like there. And you often
Yeah.
hear the stories of, putting babies in a sandbox of different colors. They're not going to learn to dislike each other. They only learn
Mm-mm.
that, unfortunately, as they grow older. Unfortunately,
Yeah,
it's horrible. So
it is.
to paint a picture of where you were and what you're doing now, I mean, what you're doing now is remarkable. I've been able to watch some of it, read some of it. It's absolutely incredible how you're helping people. How you turned yourself around and not only helped yourself but decided to help others is
Mhm.
incredibly admirable, Melina.
Thank
Why
you.
would you do that? Tell me what inspires you to make that change.
Um, I think part of it is definitely it was just my purpose on earth. It was just
Mm.
the reason why I'm here on earth and had those experiences. And then I know very well what pain is like,
Mm.
what emotional pain is, what just struggling through tribulations and all that. And I never wanted another human being to
Mm.
experience that and experience the loneliness of that. So I just feel like there's just this internal motivation for me to let people know, number one, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. And number two, like, you truly are not alone. This is I think this is a crux of my work, like, to let people know you're not alone in this. And it does end and it does transform to something good.
And you're living proof of that.
Hmm.
Your childhood, you were homeless, you were spiraling deep, you were a victim of abuse.
Yeah.
You came up with these kinds of laws in your life at that time that are just heartbreaking. I will always suffer. I will never find true love. I will always struggle with money. People are unkind and
Hmm.
world is unsafe. It's just so heartbreaking, Melina.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. I think that a lot of us come up with laws, until we realize that we have the power to change our experience and it can be different. A lot of us come up with laws that we live our life by. And, when they talk about self fulfilling prophecies,
Hmm.
that's all it's about. We create these laws and then we create these never ending cycles of pain. And until we have an awakening, like, no more, I will not experience this anymore. And then we break the law and choose a whole new story. in a whole new narrative.
And you describe this first as your epiphany one, right? Where
Mhm.
you first kind of came up with this first epiphany one where you've just kind of had it. When you say when you get to the heart of the matter, life will start to change.
Yeah.
How did you come up with this? After all of that, you're young and you've got abuse, you're dealing with a whole different set of standards there. I mean, you're remarkable to actually find and do something with that epiphany one.
Mhm.
Talk to me about it.
Yeah, I think it all comes down to a decision.
Mm,
So either you stay in this mess, or
mm,
either I stayed in the mess of depression and I stayed in the mess of victimhood. That was a choice. Or I can make a choice to take on Epiphany 1
hmm,
and experience something different. And so the decision that I made was definitely a self-loving and a self-preserving choice, that there's something else out here, and I'm gonna find it. So it actually came with people call it a come to Jesus moment,
mm.
or like a breakthrough. And I was literally on my knees asking, what is the point of this? What is the point of this? What is my purpose? And so that was the first time for me I ever heard the voice of God clearly. Because I was religious, but I just wasn't astute and attuned, or so I thought. And so the answer was, heal yourself to heal other women. And so what happened when you ask the question is the answers start coming in the ways that you can hear them, in the ways that you can understand them. So breadcrumbs,
Hmm.
one by one, led me to the life that I'm living today.
Yeah,
Yeah.
your quote was, I know this isn't who I really am, and this isn't all that God has for me in life, but what the hell do I do next?" And you talk about discovering prayer, and you mentioned, yeah, you heard
Mhm.
God. And so before that point, were you praying? You said you were religious. Were you church going? Were you praying? Did you have a relationship with God?
I thought I did, but I didn't. I had a relationship with religion. I had a
Mm,
relationship with Christianity, and that's what I was identifying as. But deep inside, I didn't believe that God truly loved me enough to like speak directly to me. I just had this belief that I was one of many, and prayer really worked only half the time.
hmm,
Prayer was just something you do out of desperation, and maybe by some miracle, God will answer you every now and again. And so I had to learn what prayer really was, and also that it has a lot to do with your internal voice, what you're telling yourself. Because if you are full of disbelief, as I was, um, and you're praying for something that requires faith and belief, kind of negating everything that you're
mm,
asking for. Which was a hard lesson for me to learn.
mm,
In fact, I was very angry at God for a while because I thought I wasn't being heard. Um, but then I learned how to use my internal power. And I think that's the key. It's all about alignment, faith, and belief,
hmm.
you know. So, yeah, had to get out of there.
Alignment, faith, and belief. Very interesting.
Yes.
Now you say
hmm
you heard God talk to you. Was it purely audio? Was it visual? Was there a vision? Talk to me about that.
Okay, so immediately after I asked, the answer came back.
I see.
And I knew that it was God and not my own ego,
Hmm.
because of the way that I felt. In that moment, I was so depressed. I was so depressed and in such a dark place. But when those words came back, everything lifted and there was complete peace. And I was able to um, receive it and know that it was going to be okay. Know that I wasn't going to commit suicide. I wasn't going to struggle through life anymore. There was an answer for me. And so I think that's how we know the voice of God, or the voice of spirit, however people, the God of their understanding. It brings peace. It brings understanding that we as humans could not naturally bring, you know. And there's just like I said, alignment. There's just there's a way that you feel when that happens.
Hmm.
It's just like, okay, yep, this is going to be okay. This is truth.
You just gave me multiple chills. So this had never happened to you before this?
No. Mm-mm. Before this, I didn't think that I was worthy enough to hear from God.
Mm.
So, and God was just so far away from me. God to me was a punishing God. God was the one who kept you in check when you were sinning.
Hmm.
Um, so God to me was not love, you know. But I was just so desperate that night. I was willing to ask, and I was willing to ask sincerely and in complete surrender.
Wow. So
Hmm.
this is so that we start getting into your epiphany too. You had spiritual, you created some spiritual principles, some laws, some
Hmm.
healings. You got multiple certifications. I mean, you just,
Yes.
Melina, you just completely turned around there. Incredible.
Yes. Yes. Much gratitude. Hmm.
My goodness. And in the podcast we talk about discipline. Only I had lost a lot of weight and people ask me how do I did it and I said it's just discipline.
Hmm.
I kind of had a come to Jesus moment, nothing compared to yours, and I just decided to change.
Yeah.
So you to that point, I mean, you exemplify discipline. You took self discipline and you got all these certifications. You turned yourself around. Before that point, did you consider yourself a disciplined person?
Oh, I did. So, as far as material, as far as work, I was definitely doing well.
Mm,
Um, I was got into my career very relatively early in life, in my early 20s. I did very well in school, so I was
hmm,
always disciplined. Like I always knew I wanted to do better than we did when I was a kid. But spiritually disciplined, I was not.
mm,
Hmm.
mm. And
Yeah.
give me examples of disciplined spirituality.
Disciplined spirituality is, I know keep saying alignment, but it is.
Mm,
Disciplined spirituality means checking the inner voice. So when you allow things to go unchecked, for example, um, let's take weight loss. I'm too fat for anything else to help.
mm,
Um, I've tried to lose weight X amount of times before. This is just not going to work for me. So I'm going to go down to Pizza Hut and just, have a ball because whatever. Left unchecked, that is going to be our life experience, right? Left unchecked, we never give ourselves the opportunity to be a different person. So spiritual discipline is not checking those thoughts, letting those thoughts run wild. I am not worthy. I am not deserving. Nothing is going to change for me. I've tried X, Y, and Z. Spiritual discipline looks like, no, I'm a child of God. I'm a child of the God of my understanding. Of course, I deserve this. Um, of course, I can change because I'm here. I'm here on earth for a reason. Spiritual discipline looks like aligning with your highest power, your highest self. Say in meditation, whatever meditation you decide, whether for me, beauty is one of my most favored meditations. Going out to a lake or going out to an ocean and just looking out on it and being in stillness and doing that. So I'm building a force field where my new vision can actually hold it,
hmm,
So when you achieve this weight loss goal, I'm sure you didn't have Twinkies all around you because that new version of yourself is not going to be able to hold that old lifestyle. Or be around people who are eating Twinkies, or be around people who, just are adverse to your goal
mm,
because it just won't hold it. You have a new self-image that you're growing into, and that old mindset, those old habits, it's not going to hold it. So building things that are going to be strong, a strong foundation, That is spiritual discipline.
Incredible. And
Yeah.
like just general health and wellness, does that spill over into spirituality? Does family, job, etc., life work balance? I mean, is that all under the spiritual umbrella, you feel?
Absolutely. So we are, in my opinion, we are spirits having human experiences.
Hmm.
So there's no separation. We can't get away from being spiritual because we are essentially spirits. So our whole lives is this beautiful experience and this beautiful expression of the divine, whether we're in work, whether we're in relationship, whether we're just sitting here doing a podcast, it's all an expression of our divine light. We can't separate the two.
Hmm.
Um, so I feel like it's honoring that at all times, honoring that at all times. That at no point do we you know, collect our hundred or oh, I forgot how you say it in Monopoly.
Yeah.
um
200?
at no point does that happen
None.
because we already won, we already have that victory.
Hmm.
So it's like in all aspects of our life, honoring the divinity that we already are, honoring our bodies because we're divine, so we're not going to put anything in it, whether it's over consuming food or, and I like to eat, I'm a foodie,
Me too.
whether it's over consuming food, over consuming alcohol, it's about honoring ourselves across the line. That too is spiritual discipline.
Spirits having human experiences.
Hmm.
That's eloquent. And you talk about, this epiphany too, where you start praying more and you have an open relationship with God. And
Yeah.
you just mentioned meditation. Like, talk to me the differences between meditation and prayer.
So prayer is you speaking, is me, I'll speak for myself, is me speaking and communing to God.
Mm.
Meditation is me receiving and listening to
Two.
what God's response is.
Ah,
So meditation is just receiving. That's where I receive my ideas. That is where I receive my inspiration, the strength that I need to move on to my next level. And meditation can take so many forms.
mm,
I know that we see it as, you're laying there, palms up, but it doesn't have to be that at all.
right.
Meditation is just getting still and listening.
And when you meditate, is it always unassisted?
It can be assisted or unassisted. Again, my favorite meditation is nature.
Hmm.
Yeah, I could sit in a forest or I could sit next to an ocean and just listen, just sit there and be still. Um, there are some assisted meditations that I enjoy, some mindfulness meditations. Um, but yeah, I think that's my favorite. Just looking at beauty.
And
Yeah.
you do it regularly, multiple times a day?
Maybe once or twice a day, not multiple times a day, because I'm not able to get outside
Mm.
that often. Another meditation that I'll do is with water. Water is really good for creativity, especially if you're a writer like me, or you're creating content. Just in the shower, first thing in the
Hmm.
morning, letting the water stream over you,
Mm.
and being still there, enjoying the flow of the water, the sound of the water. You could do it also with an audio of rain or something like that. Or if you're lucky enough to literally live next to a body of water.
Mm.
But yeah, just tuning in, tuning in. Hmm.
So then this epiphany 2 came, you have this new open relationship with God, you're
Hmm.
meditating. By the way, the commonality when I get to speak to remarkable people like yourself is meditation. Just everybody
Hmm.
really meditates. It's remarkable. But
Yeah.
I stopped and I started again, and I find it does help me.
Mhm.
And then so then you start to go inside and you start to go back to your first love, which is writing.
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah.
and your novel. I mean, highly acclaimed, bestseller, praised by the Oprah
Mhm.
Winfrey Network. Absolutely incredible.
Yes. Yeah. That novel was a meditation.
Hmm.
It really was. So, so it started with a pretty sad event. So, when Trayvon Martin's murderer got off, I had another come to Jesus moment where I was just really, really angry at God. You know, like how
Hmm.
does this happen?
Hmm.
Um, but after that, for quite a while, I woke up every single morning from 3 to 4 a.m. with information,
Wow.
just tuning in, just listening in. But I was awakened every single morning. And so the information that I got or the ideas that I received were a large part of that book. And that taught me a lot about meditation, you know, and listening and tuning in. And that there's so much richness and literal gold inside of us, and all we have to do is tap into it.
Yeah, Fistful of Honey. And
Hmm.
while it's a novel, there's still some autobiographical sentiment.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
Hmm.
very, very. So you say that's so interesting to me. So you were almost channeled. You feel
Yes.
wow,
Hmm.
and always at the
Hmm.
same time
Yeah.
to the completion of the book.
No, so this was probably like the first maybe about 2 months of the book writing process. The process was 4 years, so it was just
Mm,
the beginning. Hmm.
my
Yeah.
goodness! And had you written fiction before? Had you? What was your writing background?
Yeah, so I started writing in the second grade. Uh, my love back then was poetry,
Mm,
and I wrote more for a while. Adulthood, I kind of cut it off. I got really serious, you know. And then, yeah, it. I never intended to write a novel ever. I actually had set out to write a nonfiction book on energy and money, manifesting money, and it just would not happen. It wouldn't happen because that's not
hmm,
what that's not what was intended. And so the first call to action that I received was tell your story, tell the whole story, and don't leave anything out.
hmm,
So I was petrified. What? No. What do you mean? I'm a very private person from a very private family. And
mm,
so airing out um, my traumas, no. But it was clearly not a choice, you know. Well, I made the choice to heed what I was hearing and what the directive was. And I'm so glad that I did. A lot of the traumas that I have been through. Now, that is a Fistful of Honey is a work of fiction. It's not all my life story,
right.
but many pieces of it are.
Mm,
And so a lot of the traumas that I had gone through, so many women and some men were just so grateful that they had a voice in that book, that they had somewhere to look where they could see themselves reflected back. And start generating their own healing paths from that. So that is like the biggest gift I could ever receive. Just that one little tidbit. So yeah, that's how it began.
it's interesting. I'm kind of drawing a line between. So you were going to write this other book, which is nonfiction, and then you. It
Hmm.
seems to me you found it to be a bit disingenuous, almost the way you first started praying, and you found
Yeah.
out that was disingenuous, and so you had to kind of change it. Just kind of drew that
Yes.
line now, and of course now you've got all of this of what's happened, and you've turned it around, and got all these certification, and you've turned it now into coaching and wellness of
Mhm.
others. Tell me what that's like. What kind of clientele do you have? Who comes to you? How do you help them?
Yeah. So for a very long time, I would work with anyone who wanted to work with emotional wellness. But right now, my biggest focus is on people who want to build their vision,
Mm,
who don't necessarily know what they want out of life, and they are looking for vision. I find that that is a particularly painful hell to be in
mm,
when you're just stuck and you don't know, like, what exactly do I want and how do I move forward. So right now I'm promoting a vision quest. Yeah, so it's just as simple as, what do you want? Let's figure out the blueprint for you to get there so you're not wasting any more precious time, any more precious energy. And so that takes a great deal of courage. It takes a great deal of honesty, because not everyone, first of all, not everyone knows what they want, but I think more than that, aren't willing to admit
mm,
what it is they really want, because sometimes things we want aren't exactly acceptable by our family or our spouses. So being
hmm.
honest about that and going for it, that's what I really want for my clients today.
In one of your interviews, you had something that I remember, I really loved.
Mhm.
You said, what do I really want, and how am I going to feel when I get it?
Yes.
So
Hmm.
often we set these goals. You
Hmm.
know, I'll go back to the weight thing. People lose a lot of weight and then just gain it right back.
Yeah.
They kind of reach their goal, they don't celebrate it enough, and they don't kind of revel in it and really understand what they've done. I think that's a very important follow up to goal setting and reaching.
Hmm. Yeah, that's huge. Thank you. Um, yeah, how are you going to feel, or what are you looking for? But I love what you said about celebration.
Mm,
That is something that I used to not do.
mm,
I would just roll through the goals based on how it made me look. It made me look successful, so I'm going to do this. And then I achieve it, but I still feel flat.
mm,
Like it's just a thing that I was able to do. But when you link the two, celebration and just really letting that energy go through your body, like, yes, this is, I did this, and it's a means to this next thing that I want. Losing weight so that I can play with my kids, or
mm,
losing weight so I can just feel so good and alive in my body, rather than losing weight so someone looks at me and it's like, okay, yeah, she's doing good in life. Not gonna last. Because
right.
the next chocolate cake I find, I'm gonna inhale it, hands down.
Get it out of the house, Malena. I don't want it in the house.
you know. So yeah, how are you going to feel? That's very, very important, two things.
You mentioned your passion is transformation, and I can just see that
Mhm.
because you've done it. You want to help others do it. When you're helping people, with this vision quest, helping them do this, is what you do more art or science?
I think it's both. There's definitely an art to it, um, knowing what's not being said, hearing for what they're not saying. Um, so I think that's the art of coaching. That's the
Mm,
art of consulting. But then there's also the science. So what I really help people do is get to know themselves. Like, what are your values? What are your standards? And I'm not asking for your parents' values
hmm,
or what someone gave you, but what do you value? Um, and then from there, it's like, what are their beliefs? And they'll tell me X, but then we can see the evidence is really Y.
hmm,
It's again alignment. It's out of alignment. So it's kind of like an artist a little bit. You see there's something off with this color. There's something off with these brushstrokes. let's tweak it and create a masterpiece of their own creation. This is about what they want to create, what they truly believe in, you know and are really excited about and really happy to create. So yeah, I think it's both.
Very interesting. And when
Mhm.
you're working with people, are you working with one on one? Are you working with a group of people to develop this kind of vision quest? Sounds fascinating.
The majority of my work has been I'm sorry, one on one, but I'm shifting that now to groups. What I find is that, especially in this era of the pandemic, people need community.
Mm,
People really need community. They really need to be able to share, be able to be heard, foster relationships with someone other than just me. And it's really powerful. Community is very, very powerful. In fact, one of the things that I also talk about is tough love,
mm,
and the connection that I've made with lack of connection and depression, um, especially here in the Western world, here in the U.S. and just the West in general. We've lost that a lot.
yeah.
We have become so independent and so self-reliant
Mm.
that we've lost the power of community. How much stronger that makes us, how much stronger that makes the work that we put out into the world, into the universe. And so, yeah, I'm really shifting more to group and doing that for people.
Speaking of which, you've got this incredible, 70,000 strong Facebook group,
Yeah,
the Black Divine Feminine Reawakened.
yeah,
I can imagine that that's got a lot of that community building there.
yeah. So I'm looking to do more. Getting people together. I'm really excited about the like clubhouse and things like that, where you
Mm,
can get more people together at once and people can actually speak back to you. When you have a large platform, it's not always easy for everyone to, kind of get engaged, especially with how some of the algorithms are
yeah.
set up. But yeah, I'm really excited for doing more on that page and beyond. Yeah.
Well, you talked about depression. Unfortunately, a lot of social media may lead to that. People kind of some may
Hmm.
spend just a little bit too much on there, and it's a bit of a race, it seems, sometimes in some of those.
Yeah.
But again, it's the person. I mean, depression is a just health itself. I mean, I keep on going to weight. I don't mean to, but 75%
Hmm.
of the US, last statistic I heard, is obese, and that's going to lead to depression, and that's going to lead to
Hmm.
unhealthiness. And which trying to develop vision and focus in life, of which you're assisting,
Hmm.
can really round the wellness out in most people. Don't you feel?
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah, I think that's why we're here, because people are most definitely searching, and, we have the internet, it's not going anywhere.
Mm,
So let's be the beacons of light for them, and for ourselves. It's not like once you get out of depression, you're just free and clear. At least not for me. Like,
right.
so I need community as well, and I need to teach what I most need to learn a lot so that I can continue to
Hmm.
master it. And so just think this is a perfect opportunity to do so. Doing podcasts, doing whatever is going to take it to as many people as possible that can feel your heart and hear your voice, that it really is concerned for them and has an answer. That's the key.
It really
That's the
is.
key on how to use it. Yeah.
Are you writing another book?
I am.
Yeah, you can't help it.
Slowly but surely, Joe.
Yeah.
I am.
Yeah, I could just sense it in you. It's just, yeah, it's there, right? Yeah, and it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. I've never
Definitely.
written a book, but when I read something that's well written, I could just feel the textures and the layers of it,
Mhm.
and um what's um, that old quote from Mark Twain when writing a letter to his sister. I'm
Mhm.
sorry this is so long. I didn't have enough time to shorten it. So writing is a long process of cutting out
Yeah.
what's not needed. And can you spill us a little bit on what it's about? Or
Okay, so there are multiple projects in the works, but everyone wants the sequel to A Fistful of Honey.
uh,
So that's on its way as well. Seeing what happens to Alina in this next new world. Um, does the earth change? Does the earth become more loving? What's in store for her daughter, the next generation
hmm,
of Bridgers? So yes, people, I'm working on it. you know, it's for me, writing is not one of those things. It's a very spiritual
hmm,
process, and it's always filtered through me. Now I have put out some short stories. They can find that on my website. Um, but it's always filtered through me and what I'm going through. And also, I right now I am working on getting regrounded in it because I'm doing a lot of real estate investing
hmm.
and just other things. It kind of took me off the creative path for a while, so I'm clearing that out so I can do what I love. And so yeah, so the sequel is all about the next chapter for her, the next chapter for humanity, and really the next chapter for me, since I am essentially Malena,
I was gonna
not
say.
Alina,
I was
but
gonna say
Malena.
yes. That's my next question.
So
Yeah, is there?
yes,
It's just a coincidence, perhaps.
yeah. Well, Alina is all of the things we talked about at the top of the hour, just really a giving away of all of that
Hmm.
and leaving it behind in the book, leaving it in the as the medicine of that book. You know, everything that I went through kind of transformed into healing.
And not only did you heal yourself, but you've
Mhm.
turned it around and are healing others. That's what's the most remarkable thing, and I applaud you for that. And tell
Thank
us,
you.
how can we get in touch with you? Tell us your many points of contact, please.
Yes, of course. So you can, of course, go to my website, malenacrawford.com, and that's Malena. There is no R in that.
Oh,
It's not
Marlena.
Marlena.
Okay, yes.
Um, and then I am on Instagram at Malena Crawford. I am on barely on Twitter.
Mm.
Um, where else do I frequent? Oh, and of course, the Black Divine Feminine Reawakened page, which is a mouthful. I do apologize. And it's also not just for women, and it's definitely not just for Black women or Black people. There are literally every race, gender, etc., represented in the followers of the Black Divine Feminine. And I am so proud of that and so happy for that. It's a
Mm.
page for inspiration, it is a page for just beauty, for you to be reminded of how beautiful you are. Now, I have taken a hiatus from that page for the past 2 months so that I can write, but I will be back on, and I'll be back on there stronger than ever with daily content that will hopefully continue to build a community. So,
And your book is on Amazon, Fistful of Honey.
yes. Hmm.
And you have a kind of a smaller page on YouTube, some older book review and some couple, maybe about a couple-year old videos that I watched as well.
Yeah.
But it doesn't look like you
Yeah.
spend much time there.
No, I'm barely on YouTube, which hopefully will change once my workload changes. But yeah,
But your website's great. It's got a great content. It's got, your history, and it's got a way to contact you and your items
hmm,
that you have. And
thank you.
yeah, it's really good. Yeah, Melina Crawford, thank you so much for your time today. Absolutely inspiring. I hope
Thank
people
you.
watching can learn from your story and help themselves. And if they can't, reach out to you to help them do so.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I had a blast.
Thanks again. You be well. Bye now.
All right. Bye bye.
Thank you for listening and or viewing Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations. Please share this episode with one or two of your friends who you think may benefit from the episode. Our website, www.joeypins.com. There you'll find lots of resources and you could join our mailing list. Please follow us on all our social media, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Podcast information, the video version of our podcast is on YouTube. Please subscribe. Audio is on all major podcasting platforms. Please follow them. And if you like it, please consider giving 5-star rating. Would really appreciate that. Would you like to financially support the podcast? You can go to our Patreon site. Consider $5, $10, or $20 a month. There's all kind of plans that we have there. There's like a one-time payment. What is this podcast episode worth to you? $25, $50, $100, $500, $1,000, $5,000. You be the judge. You can go to our PayPal account to do that as well. Thank you again for listening or watching Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations.